Hey again, Dave Dubeau, The Dubeau Show, DaveDubeau.com, coming back at you with another video lesson. Today's is a little bit more in depth. Today I'm going to be talking about something that's really important, and that is for you to understand what the true lifetime worth of a money partner is for you. Okay, so this might be a little bit of a longer video, but I highly recommend that you watch the whole thing, because this is a major aha moment for everyone who comes out to my investor attraction workshops or who works personally with me. So I'd like to share that with you on this video today. But before I do that, I just want to give you a little bit of the backstory of when I really kind of clued into this. So you may recall that I lived for quite a few years overseas, down in Mexico and Central America, ended up settling down in San Jose, Costa Rica, and I started a language training company down there, and we would send English teachers on site to big companies like Kimberly-Clark and Intel and Bayer Pharmaceuticals, Pfizer, different companies like that, transnational companies, and we would train their employees in English, how to speak English better, how to write English, how to communicate with their bosses in North America, etc. And when I first started that business, I did like what most boneheads do. And that is, I thought, you know what, if I want to try and get my foot in the door, I've got to be the cheapest guy going. I got to compete on price. So I started out that way, trying to compete on price. Thank goodness I was very keen about learning how to do business better. So I struggled along for a while like that. Then I got some training and some education from a gentleman named Jay Abraham. Brilliant, brilliant, brilliant marketer. And through Jay Abraham, I learned the whole concept of the lifetime value or lifetime worth of a client. So when I applied that to my language business, I realized that a client for me at that time was worth a whopping $12,000, which may or may not sound like very much to you, but to me at that time, that was a lot of money. Okay, so when I realized that, plus I applied some of the other strategies as well, I was able to take my struggling little company from the bottom of the heap, where we had over 50 indirect and direct competitors in that market. So it was a very, very competitive market. I was able to go from the bottom to the top 3 in about 2 years. All right, that was, and a big reason I did that was because I learned what the lifetime value of a client was for me. None of my competitors ever figured that out, so that meant that I could outmarket them because I knew how much a client was worth to me. I could invest more in marketing and in sales and in incentives and bonuses and guarantees and all this kind of stuff, and that's how I was able to take my little company to the top 3 very, very quickly. All right, so how does that apply to real estate? Well, I forgot all about that for years until, I don't know, I was rereading a marketing book and I came across the concept again, and I thought, hey, I wonder how this would work with investor partners. So watch this lesson. It's kind of go through it on a PowerPoint presentation, and then I really highly recommend that you do the exercise. There should be the handouts below this video, and figure out what the lifetime worth of an investor is for you. Check it out. So what's an investor really worth to you? This is something that nobody ever really thinks about. And I know that I didn't think about it for a long time, even though I was aware of the lifetime value of a customer from other businesses I've been involved in. And at the time when I started thinking about this again, I was doing rent-to-own deals, and somewhere I've been reading around in some business stuff, and I came across that whole concept of lifetime value of a customer again. I decided to apply it to my real estate business, specifically with regards to money partners. So let's take a look at this and take a look at what an investor is really worth, and we'll use my rent-to-own strategy as an example. So when I was doing rent-to-own, I figured out that on average, my net profit after I paid out my investor partners and mortgage payments and all that kind of good stuff, property taxes, etc., at the end of the deal, taking all of the different profit centers into account, I would earn approximately $40,000. Now, part of that was up front, part of that was with cash flow, part of that was at the end of the deal with appreciation, etc., but altogether, on average, it was about $40,000 per deal in the area that I was investing in, which was Kamloops. So let's say one deal equals $40,000 profit to me over a 3, maybe 4-year period, on average about 3 years. And in Kamloops, at the time I was doing this, single-family home, getting into one, was about a $350,000 property, which means with 20% down plus property transfer tax and closing expenses, that would be about an $85,000 investment. So I thought, $85,000, that's quite a bit of money. So probably it would be one investor would only be able to do one deal with me. So here's our investor. Let's call him Jim Bob. So Jim Bob invests $85,000 in a deal. By the time everything washes out at the end of the term, I should altogether have a profit of about $40,000. So one investor, one deal, $40,000 profit, right? Makes sense. Well, guess what? I was wrong. The reason I was wrong is because if I did a good job and I got my investor the kind of returns he was happy with, or even better, then our investor Jim Bob, he becomes what is often called in real estate jargon, a happy camper. All right? So he might think something like this. Now, he'll either miraculously come up with more money to do another deal at the same time that the first deal is going on, so he might have 2 deals going on at the same time, or once the first deal completed, then if he's happy, he's going to reinvest his money with me for a new deal. So I found on average that, being conservative, one investor would do 2 deals with me over that relationship, that working relationship. So if each deal is worth $40,000, and our investor Jim Bob does 2 deals with me on average, that means that he's worth $80,000, right? Makes sense? One investor, 2 deals, $40,000 per deal, $80,000 total worth of that investor to me. Well, guess what? Once again, I was mistaken because I forgot to take into account that birds of a feather like to flock together. So that means that chances are Jim Bob hangs around with other people of similar financial status. And what do wealthy people like Jim Bob do when they're hanging out with their friends? Well, they tend to talk about how well they're doing with their investments. And the conversation might go something like what you see on the screen. Probably not, but something along those lines. So if you do things right, you may get another referred investor. And if that investor, again, does an average of 2 deals with you, that would be another $80,000 in profit. Now, to be conservative, what I came up with is for every 2 regular investors that I get, I can get 1 referred investor. All right, so it's not 1 for 1, but for every 2 investors I have, I can get a referral to another investor. So that means that this is the most difficult part of the math. That means that 1 investor is actually the equivalent of 1.5 investors, because for every 2 investors, we'll get a referral. Does that make sense? So 1 investor is the equivalent of 1.5 investors. And if we look at what that looks like, instead of it being $80,000 value for 1 investor, that turns into $120,000 lifetime worth of an investor to me for the rent-to-own strategy. So again, these are the numbers that I figured out for myself, being very conservative. And I found that for my students, my clients, these numbers tend to ring true for them as well. However, the value of their deals might be greater, so their lifetime value might be higher. Now think about it. What if you got 2 or 3 or maybe even 4 investors? You do the math. It's huge. So big idea, always remember the lifetime worth of an investor to you. Bottom line, just 1 investor partner can literally change your financial life forever. Now, how about if we do a little bit of work and figure this out right now for you? So there should be a PDF handout somewhere below or beside this video. Go ahead, pause the video for a minute, click on the button, download the handout, and then print it out so that you can actually jot this down for yourself. You can figure this out for yourself. So this is definitely something you're going to want to do. So go ahead and pause the video right now while you do that. Now, first of all, let's take a look at what kind of real estate strategy do you focus on most of the time. Now, I know a lot of people who are active real estate investors might do a variety of different strategies,
but typically there's one that they really specialize in, one that there is their bread and butter. So focus on that one for the purposes of this exercise, all right? So are you doing buy and hold of normal single-family homes, or perhaps buy and hold of basement suited properties? Perhaps you're doing buy, fix, and sells or flips. You could be like me and you're doing rent-own deals, or perhaps you've moved into small multifamily properties. So that would be duplexes up to fourplexes, or what I call small to medium multis, which would be 5 to 10 units. Maybe you're getting into bigger multifamilies, so 11 to 40, or really big ones, 40 plus units. Or perhaps you're doing some other kind of real estate investing. So first of all, figure out what is your primary strategy. Next step is to determine your profit per deal. And hardly anybody does this. Every deal is different, so it's hard to figure out an average, but we need to kind of come up with an average for this to work out. So when I'm talking about the total net profit, I'm talking about your profit after you've paid out all of your expenses, including your investor partners. What is left over for you? Now, and you've got to take into account the multiple profit centers in real estate. So it's not just appreciation. We're also looking at instant equity. If you got a deal on the property in the first place when you bought it, if you bought it under market value, that's instant equity. You get the profit center of leverage, which means you don't have to come up with the entire purchase price of the property. You can buy it with as little as 20, 15, or 20% down. Forced appreciation means anything you do to increase the value of the property. Mortgage or loan pay down is paying off your mortgage over time. Cash flow is king, of course, and that is your net profit at the end of every month. Market appreciation is what a lot of people focus on, but that's just one of the profit centers. So that is the value of the property going up over time. And depreciation is a tax saving strategy, which may or may not make sense for you, depending on what kind of real estate investment strategy you're focusing on. Okay, so I've been doing workshops across Canada for quite some time now, and I've asked people at every single workshop, what is a deal worth to you? And these are the averages we've come up with across the country, and these are conservative averages. So especially if you're in a really hot market, like at the moment of this recording, Vancouver is pretty hot, Toronto is very hot as well. These numbers could be low. If you're in a smaller market and not such a robust market, might be a little, these numbers might be a little bit high, but on average, these are conservative numbers. So for single family buy and hold strategy of single family homes, we came up with a $100,000 profit over 7 to 10 year hold. For single family homes with suites, we're looking at $125,000. Again, longer term type deals, 7 to 10 years. Buy, fix, and sells or flips, those are short-term deals, typically 3 to 6 months, but the profit margin per deal is lower. So you're looking at about $20,000. Rent-own deals, a little bit longer strategy, so about 3 to 4 years, $40,000 profit on those kind of deals. Small multifamily properties, $150,000, again, 7 to 10 years. Small to medium multifamilies, 5 to 10 units, that would be $300,000, again, 7 to 10 years. Medium to larger multis, 11 to 40 units. Again, every deal is going to be different, but on average, we could look at $450,000 over 10 years. And larger deals, obviously, kind of the sky's the limit, but let's put $700,000 as a very conservative number for those. So, and then if you're doing some other kind of strategy like self-storage or commercial properties, each deal is going to be a little bit different there. All right, but that gives you an idea. So let's take a look at coming up with the lifetime value, lifetime worth of an investor to you. And here's how the math works. So again, go ahead and grab your PDF handout, print that out so that you can follow along with it. So first of all, we figure out what the average net profit of the deal is for you. And then we're going to divide that by the total number of investors you need per deal. So I suggest if you're doing single family home deals, if you're doing flips, if you're doing small multis, try to work with one investor per property. If you're doing larger multifamily properties, then you're probably going to have to be using more than one investor. So divide by the total number of investors per deal, and then multiply that by the average number of deals that you're going to be doing with an investor. So typically, just to be conservative, we'll say that's 2, except for the case of flips, which I would say it would be 6 deals. And that's because you're doing a lot more deals a lot faster. So your investors are going to reinvest with you one after another after another. Okay, does that make sense? And then we're going to multiply that by 1.5, which is, again, taking into account that for every 2 investors, if we do things right, we should be able to get 1 referral. So at the end of the day, 1 investor is actually worth an investor and a half, worth 50% more. Okay, so let's take a look through this with your PDF handout. And let's start with just an example of single-family homes buy and hold strategy. So again, 7 to 10 years. The average net profit per deal, and this is a profit for you, would be $100,000. Again, that's taking into account all of the different profit centers over that entire 7 to 10 year period. All right. And on average, you're going to need 1 investor to do a deal because it's just 1 single family home. And on average, an investor is going to do 2 deals with you over their lifetime of the working relationship. And if you do a good job, you're proactive, you should be able to get a referral for every 2 investors you have. So that means 1 investor is worth 1.5 altogether. Okay, so let's put the numbers in there. $100,000, that's from point A, the average net profit, divided by how many investors you need to do that kind of a deal. So in this case, just 1, multiplied by the number of deals an investor is going to do with you, then multiplied by the referral factor, which is 1.5. So 100,000 divided by 1, that's 100,000, times 2 is 200,000, times 1.5, or adding 50% on, means $300,000 lifetime worth of an investor if you're doing single-family buy and hold, long-term hold type deals, like 7 to 10 years. So that's pretty huge. That's bigger than my lifetime value of an investor for rent-to-own deals. But again, rent-to-own deals are shorter term. So we're looking at 3 or 4 years typically. All right. So it makes sense. The longer the length of the deal, the more money you're going to make, but it's just going to take a little bit longer to do that. Now let's look at another example, something a little bit different here. Let's look at small and medium-sized multifamily properties. And this, we're going to need more than 1 investor to do a deal because these kind of properties are more expensive, right? So we're talking, I believe we're talking here 5 to 10 units, 5 to 10 rental units per property, okay? And let's say on average, your net profit on a deal like this over 7 to 10 years would be $300,000 because, again, it's a bigger type of a property, so you should be making a bigger profit. And because it costs more, chances are you need a couple of investors to come up with the money for the down payment, closing costs, property transfer tax, contingency fund, etc. for this kind of a building. And again, if on average they're going to do 2 deals with you over their lifetime, and again, we've got that 1.5 factor for the referral factor, then here's what the calculation looks like. So again, average net profit of the deal divided by the number of investors, multiplied by the number of times, number of deals the investors are going to do with you over the lifetime, multiplied by your referral factor. So we look at the numbers, 300,000 divided by 2, that takes us down to 150,000. Times 2 brings us back up to 300,000. Add 50% or multiply by 1.5, comes up with $450,000 lifetime worth of an investor partner and money partner to you if you're doing small to medium-sized multifamily properties. Okay, one last example here. Let's say we're doing single-family home, but we're doing buy, fix, and sell, flips. Okay, so a smaller profit per deal, $20,000. But again, typically you're looking at 3, 4, 5 type months for these kind of deals. So you're doing a much bigger velocity of deals. You're doing them a lot faster. Again, 1 investor to do a deal. But because these are a lot faster type deals, chances are the investors are going to invest more than twice with you, right? Because they're a lot quicker type deals. So let's say 6 is the number of deals an investor is going to do with you if they're happy with that. And again, we've got the whole referral factor there as well as 1.5. So $20,000 divided by 1 investor is $20,000. Multiplied by 6 deals brings us up to $120,000. multiplying by 1.5, again, to bring in that referral factor. That means adding 50% on to the value of that. So that brings us up to $180,000 lifetime worth of an investor to you for doing buy, fix, and sell type deals. All right? So, again, what's an investor really worth to you? Answer, a lot.
All right, well, I hope you enjoyed that lesson. If you'd like some free stuff, well, the handouts for this lesson should be below here. If you'd like a complimentary copy of my new book, Magnetic Investor Attraction, it's a pre-release copy. Click on the other link below there. And when you're ready, if you're an active investor, I'd love to sit down with you and chat with you and come up with a cunning plan on how you can attract investors and raise capital as well, and help you get some real clarity on where you want to get with your real estate investing in the next 12 to 18 months. You can click on the other button there to apply for a consultation. All right, have a good one. Talk to you next time. Bye-bye.